Hello, and welcome back. Please stand and join me for the speaking of our opening verse. So, taking a few quiet moments to be fully and authentically with yourself in reflective self-awareness. Okay, morning verse. I look into the world in which the sun is shining, in which the stars are sparkling, in which the stones repose, where living plants are growing, where sentient beasts are living, where we, soul gifted, give the spirit a dwelling place. I look into the soul that lives within my being. The spirit moves and weaves in sunlight and in soul light, in heights of worlds without, in depths of soul within. To thee, creative spirit, I turn my heart and seek that strength and grace and skill for learning and for working in me may live and grow. All right, and now let us sing.
One, two, sing smoothly glide, thou stream of life, free from envy, free from strife, free from envy, free from strife, smoothly glide, thou stream of life, free from envy, free from strife, 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 free from envy, free from strife.
All right, and now please have a seat. Let's do some mental math. We have this still up from yesterday as a reminder that you can do these bigger numbers, simplifying of square roots in steps if that's easier. So here's your problem. Simplify the square root of 180. Simplify the square root of 180. Simplifying the square root of 180. And the answer is 6 times the square root of 5. So it might not have been obvious right away that 36 is a factor of 180, but it is. 36 times 5 is 180. So you can pull out the square root of 36 being 6. And then you have 5 still within the bracket. So 6 times the square root of 5. But if that was not immediately obvious to you, you might look at 180 and go, it's probably divisible by 9, because 9 goes into 18 and square root of 9 is 3. So I'll pull the 9 out. 9 times 20 would be 180. And the square root of 9 is 3. So we can start with 3 times the square root of 20. Then I can look at 20 and say, well, 5 times 4, I know the square root of 4 is 2, so I pull that out, multiply it by 3. That gives me 6. And 5 is left. Then, of course, trying to do this mentally as much as possible. There we have it. Okay, in yesterday's lesson, we played with making a bipyramid, and we also created a variation using a kind of a zigzag joint line, which is actually called a trapezohedron, okay? And I asked you a number of questions about these forms we did yesterday. So let's actually go to the clay and see if we can answer those questions. Let's go to that now. All right, so let's just look at this shape first. And it's kind of an interesting diamond shape with a zigzag pattern. This is called a trapezohedron because these sides are technically trapezoids. Okay. So we're going to write about this in a minute. I wonder if you figured out what other shape we've done so far that would actually fall into this category. All right, so this was the last thing we did yesterday. We made this trapezohedron. This is a pentagonal one, as we can see. And it's sort of like a bipyramid, but it has this zigzag edge. And so whereas a bipyramid would have sides that were triangles, this has sides that are kites, actually, for corners, all right? And I asked you what other shape that we've made so far has a similar characteristic. And I wonder if you know the answer. You can pause now and discuss. Okay, well, we'll get to that. But first, let's make a record of bipyramids here. Bipyramid. Yeah. And since we did a pentagonal one, let's draw a pentagonal one. Start with a triangle. Okay. Bring that up to about there. Okay, and this will be a little bit in perspective. And then these will come up the back, meet about there. All right, that's good enough for me. Just gonna lighten these lines so it doesn't show up so much through the colored pencil. Just trying to get some of the graphite off my eraser here so it erases a little more clearly. Since these main lesson books that I use are kind of sketchbook quality, they end up not erasing super well, as you can see. Paper's kind of thick. Anyway, I think that works for us. Okay, there's one. And then we're going to do a hexagonal bipyramid, which we did not sculpt, but we're going to draw. Okay. And again, a little bit in perspective here. So this bottom triangle will be a little bit smaller. The wings will come out a little bit flatter than the pentagonal, because this is hexagonal. It has 6 sides. All right. There it is. So you can see here the hexagon joint. Okay. Hope that's clear enough for you. Go ahead and pause. Take as much time as you need. All right. So now I'm going to take the eraser here to this. Actually zoom in here just to make sure this is clear for you. This is a skill in and of itself. Drawing these things helps to have something to look at. So you're looking at mine. All right. So how would we explain, how would we characterize, describe a bipyramid? What do you think? Reflect on this for a moment. Pause, write your own description, maybe on a scrap paper first. And then let's see. Go ahead and pause and do that now. Okay, so a bipyramid is basically two congruent pyramids joined together at their bases. Okay? So two congruent pyramids joined at their bases. Okay. All right. Now let's turn the page. Okay. And we're going to do a page on trapezohedron. Trapezohedron. Okay. All right. So let's do the first one here. I'll do a pentagonal trapezohedron. Now the sides are where it gets a little tricky. Actually, I should make this shorter. Well, that's all right. Bring this one in a little bit. There we go. Hope you can see this all right. It's definitely tricky. Definitely a tricky form here. Luckily, I'm using blue, so I don't really need to erase it. Go ahead and pause and get this drawn. All right. So really test your drawing skills. Okay, there's that one. Take as much time as you need for that. And we're going to draw another one. This one we didn't actually make out of clay either, like some of the other ones we've drawn, but it's a triagonal trapezohedron. These are basically parallelograms here. See that? Two parallelograms, basically. And then you have two more parallelograms in the back, here and here. So you see that? Parallelogram here. I'll even do this in blue just to make it dramatic. You can see it. Of course, you'll do it in blue as well too. These are mirror parallelograms, and then in the background, likewise. See, here's a parallelogram, and it's mirrored over here, okay? So, how can we describe a trapezohedron? And you don't have to get super technical here. You can compare it to other shapes we've made. Go ahead and pause and see if you can muster a description here, and of course finish up any other drawing you need to do. Go ahead and pause and do that now. Okay. So I'm going to say trapezohedron is similar to a bipyramid. Bipyramid. Except that its joints form a zigzag. And its sides are kites instead of triangles. So that's a sort of comparative thinking that I would like you to be doing. All right. Now, let's go to one of the questions I asked you. Pause if you need more time on this. Okay. So one of the questions I asked you is, how is a bipyramid different from a prism? Well, here we have a trapezohedron, but let's turn it back into a bipyramid. And actually, how would we do that? Let's turn it back into a pentagonal bipyramid. How would you do that? Think about that for a moment. Try to visualize it. Pause, visualize it, maybe try to do it. Go ahead and do that now. So, for one thing, we need to bring these edges back together, right? So that they align. And then instead of kites, we'll have triangles again. So that's the first thing we need to do. Let's bring these edges back together. Let's see here. We're actually supposed to have another edge here. Hang on. We need 5. Yeah. See another edge here. And we need another edge here. So then we're pentagonal again. And let's just refine this form so that it looks nice and it looks clear what it is. By the way, I'm doing this in real time with you, with the idea that, we take about the same amount of time to do these. Maybe you take a little bit longer, or maybe you do it a little bit more quickly. But you don't have to keep watching me do it. You know what to do, right? So just keep working on yours, but along with me, and I'll just keep kind of talking as we're going here. So we want to know, how is a bipyramid different from a prism? So once you have your, I call them joints, right, where the faces, where the hedron come together, once you have your joints nice and crisp, then we'll really be able to get a picture of this. But it is important to get these joints crisp. So that we can really see the form that we're dealing with here. All right, mine's pretty good. Get a pentagonal bipyramid. So how is it different from a prism? Look at yours. Take more time if you need it. Pause for as long as you need. So now to this question. Right? Go back to your main lesson book and look at your characterizations of a prism if you need to. How is this different? How is this different? What do you think? Go ahead and pause and discuss. So for one thing, this does not have parallel and congruent opposite sides, right? Because the opposite of this on this side would be up here, but this is not flat. This is not a plane. This is an edge, okay? Same thing for the sides, right? We don't have any parallelism nor congruence, okay? So that's really the long and the short of it, okay? So, that being said, let us now go back to the chalkboard and continue our lesson. Okay, and now please stand. Let's do some more singing. And to begin with, let's go to our 4-part harmony that we already know of Bonse Abba. Let's go to that now. 1, 2, ready, sing.
Bonseaba mupokele laba lipele maka akuba bana. 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 Kubabana, 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 bakwalesa, kubabana, 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 bakwalesa, kubabana, 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 bakwalesa, kubabana, 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 bakwalesa. Bonseaba mupokele laba lipele maka akubabana. 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 Kubabana, 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 bakwalesa, kubabana, 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 bakwalesa, muyaya, 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 bakwalesa, muyaya, ya muyaya, muyaya, bakwalesa, kubana, hey.
Okay, and now let's work on the fifth part. Bonseaba mupokele laba lipele maka akuba bana pa 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 pa. Bonseaba mupokele laba lipele maka akuba bana kuba bana bakwalesa kuba bana bakwalesa kubabana kubabana bakwalesa kubabana kubabana bakwalesa pa 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 pa. Bonseaba mupokele laba lipele maka akubabana. Bonseaba mupokele laba lipele maka akubabana. Kubabana bakwalesa kubabana bakwalesa muyaya muyaya bakwalesa muyaya muyaya bakwalesa hey. All right. And now please have a seat and take some quiet moments before we get on to our new lesson. Okay, so I have told you in the past, in a past lesson, that these Platonic solids relate to the elements out of which the world of form, the formal world, is composed. So, according to Plato, the first element to emanate from God or the Godhead is fire. Now, if you've taken my lessons for previous grades or not, maybe you've taken lessons elsewhere, but you may have some familiarity with these elements. Oftentimes, they're talked about as the four elements: fire, air, water, and earth. And of course, we're introducing a fifth element of ether or life. Interestingly, I told you that the yogic model includes ether as the fifth element, or like space, the ethereal element. Yesterday, I saw a rendition of Plato's Elements that also claims that fifth element as ether. So, there may be some debate on that. Nevertheless, whether it's ether or it's life, we can still think about this as a fivefold process. And when we get to the Platonic solids, we'll see how that fivefoldness is actually really important. Okay? So, in Plato's cosmology, fire is the first element that emanates from the Godhead. So, based on what you know or what you have learned in the past, or might not have learned in the past, but just can sort of generate now, what do you think are some of the qualities of the fiery element? And where is it found in nature? Where is it found in the human body? Think about those things. Go ahead and just take some time to pause and reflect on the nature of this element of fire. Go ahead and do that now. Okay. So you probably said something like heat, energy, yeah? Maybe expansiveness, maybe explosiveness. Many physicists subscribe to the notion of this Big Bang, that at the beginning of the manifest universe, everything was in this like infinitely small space, and it got so full of energy that it just exploded out. So that being the case, one could understand perhaps why, Plato would consider fire as the initial element. So maybe heat, maybe explosiveness, maybe expansiveness, maybe creation, right? Something new happening. It's sort of interesting in the Chinese model of cosmology, I think maybe the Taoist, and this actually goes into Chinese medicine. They also have 5 elements. Their elements are different, a little different. I think it's fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. But for the Chinese, fire creates substance, actually. Fire creates earth, generates earth, which is sort of a curious thing to think about. How does fire generate earth? Well, we have wood, maybe we're burning wood, and it burns to charcoal or to ash or something like that. There, in the end, there's something that can't be burned, right? And so it leaves something over. So maybe that's what's meant by it. I'm not an expert in that particular system, but one can imagine how fire, because of its energy and its movement, can give rise to new things. So maybe creation, movement. And then light, right? It has a luminosity to it, right? You could light up a whole cave with a fire, right? And so what do we see in the world? Well, the sun, a hot summer day, pretty much anytime something is moving, there's some kind of energy going on there. The sun is sort of the original giver of energy. All the weather originally probably comes in some way from the sun. Growth happens because of the sun, right? With the plants and all. Big masses of air move because of the sun, right? Creating temperature differentials and so on. And how about in the body? Well, certainly, we all have body heat. If we're alive, we have body heat. So it's there. There's a fire in us. So there's some connection with fire and life, right? If you happen to be walking through the forest and come upon a dead squirrel or a dead crow or a dead deer, and you happen to touch it, it would be whatever the temperature of the environment is. It will have lost its heat, right? So there's something connected to life with this heat. Certainly, this heat lives strongly in the blood. This is a whole nother topic we could talk about that we're not going to get into now. And it lives very strongly in our metabolism and our digestion. So your belly is perhaps the warmest part of your body, generally. If you put your hands here and leave them there for a couple minutes, they will tend to heat up, to warm up. And that's because you need this digestive fire to metabolize your food, to turn it into energy. Okay? So, that being said, let us go now and work to sculpt the first of these platonic solids that is associated with the element of fire. Let's go to that now. All right. So, I am showing you all of this to show you how much plastilina clay I have. I got 2 packets that are not even open. You can see how big they are in comparison to my hand, right? Here's my palm. Here's the plastilina. We're going to make 5 platonic solids. And I actually want them all to remain made. So take the amount of clay you have and divide it into roughly 5 equal parts. Okay? I know that obviously I have 4, so I need to give some of each one of these, about 1/5 of each one of these, to another pile, okay? So I can sort of just imagine what 1/5 might be like. And I'll have to open these and do the same, because eventually we want to be able to look at the 5 platonic solids together. All right. So I'm just going to pause my filming here for a second and open these, finish opening these and separate. So we got about 1/5 of this one. And I got about 1/5 of this one. And needs to give a little bit more from each one. Probably from this one, a little bit from that one. And then voila. We have roughly 5, sort of equal size blocks of clay. Okay. So I'll set 4 of these aside, and then I'll work with 1. Today we're going to make our first form, our first platonic solid. And this is fire. So this is going to be a kind of pyramid. But instead of having 4 or 5 sides as the base, this is going to have 3. You might even start at the top and get your trinity there. And then the base should naturally form also into a trinity. Now the thing about this form, which is called a tetrahedron, is that all the sides need to be congruent. Okay, so this might take a little bit of work here. Okay, just play with it. Three-sided pyramid. So you can stand it up, look at it, rotate it, see are these sides all congruent? If not, make adjustments. And of course, stand it on a different side, look again. You're going for congruence here, obviously. Take it to another side. So all these sides should be congruent. Smooth it out, of course. Migrate your clay around to make things nice and equivalent. All right. Mine's coming along. Still just working the magic here. Just trying to get it really nice and even all around. Nice crisp edges and corners. Try to smooth out any creases you have. So it just looks like one solid form. Okay. All right, I'm going to call that a tetrahedron. Go ahead if you need more time to perfect yours, and you can always, of course, perfect it even more. But if you need more time, go ahead and pause and do that now. All right. So for tomorrow, I want you to think about this form. What qualities does it have? How many different qualities can you name? How many different qualities, how many different properties can you name about this form? Think about that, okay? And also maybe think about, like, why is this the fire form? What about this seems fire-ish? Okay? So think about those things for tomorrow. And in tomorrow's lesson, we will get into the air shape and probably the earth shape. Okay? We'll get into those tomorrow. Here's a little joke to end. What do you get when you cross geometry with McDonald's? Well, you get a plain cheeseburger. Okay. And on that note, that'll be all for this lesson. So thank you very much, and we will see you for the next lesson. Take care. Bye-bye.